Hi guys, thank you for joining me so right around the lunch hour. So I hope we don't have people who just ate and are a bit sleepy and the other half might be hungry or getting hungry. So I've prepared something for you guys around our customer. It's a little bit of a Cinderella story. From pain to gain. How Hunkemöller digitized their return process and increased their in-store returns by 15%, which is quite impressive. So without further ado, we're going to dive into it. But of course, before that, who am I? I'm a Dutch guy living in Vienna, Austria. Why? I love skiing. Not only that, I of course have a beautiful wife and daughter there. Aside from that, I have over 6 years experience in the e-commerce industry and supply chain. My heart is in the supply chain, but the passion comes from the e-commerce, right? You have something which is needed to get a parcel to your customers, and then you have e-commerce where everything is revolving around conversion, speed, sexiness. So it's both worlds combined that make my life at nShift very interesting. Currently responsible for new business in the DACH area. So that gives me the opportunity to speak to many beautiful customers. I can see also very nice warehouses and hear interesting stories about how they serve their customers, but also how they might think they can do better. So before we dive into Hunkemöller, who of you checks return policies before they actually buy something at a website? Can we get a show of hands? Yeah, there's some savvy people here. Yes, great. Are there also people who check that policy and then decide, I'm not going to do this? Yes, see? All right. So I'm going to let that sit with you guys for a while, but along the presentation, it will be clear why returns are so important for conversion. So to get started, a little anecdote actually happened, and as you know, last week was Valentine's Day. And of course, me wanting to be a thoughtful partner, I thought, hey, I have to get my partner a nice gift. But what gift do you buy? So started thinking. And then of course came to me. I had the greatest idea. I buy a gift for my girlfriend that I also like. Something at Hunkemöller. So what do? I go online, start browsing, find something very nice, but then the next question comes up. What size do I buy? So thankfully, I work from home. My girlfriend works in an office, so I could sneak into the closet and have a look. So what do I find? I find 5 different pieces. Guess what? All different sizes. Fuck. And now? So I go back to my computer and I'm thinking, yeah, I have to buy a gift. I want to be thoughtful. I want to do this. So, I make an educated guess. And I buy it and it arrives in time. It was nicely packed, so I didn't have to do that anymore. And then next, Valentine's Day. So, nice bouquet of roses, a nice gift. Happy, because yes, that's a very thoughtful gift. Thank you, very nice. However, you guessed it, I bought the wrong size. So, that brings us also to, I had to return it. And because I knew that Hunkemöller has a good return process, I was confident to go through with my purchase, which was a risky purchase on my end. And that's why returns can be so crucial, not only around Valentine's Day, but for many other reasons. Anyways, having shared a little bit about myself and Valentine's Day, we're going to dive into Hunkemöller. So, before we do that, a quote from our CRO. If you do returns well, you may save a sale and gain a customer. I'm going to let that sit with you, and at the end, you might decide whether that's relevant or not. So, I guess most of you know Hunkemöller, but there's a few facts I'd like to point out that are crucial around returns for Hunkemöller. Hunkemöller is an omnichannel retailer, meaning they serve 19 countries both on and offline. Offline, they have 900 stores and planning to expand that to 1,300 stores in the next 5 years. Also very important, growth ambition. Online, they have an online web shop, which we probably all know, but they're also selling on marketplaces. And this is a crucial part for returns as well, as we'll see later. The last part, JD.com. Hunkemöller does not operate their own warehouse. JD is doing that for them. Meaning, it's not only Hunkemöller who's in the mix, there's a third party who is doing physical logistics for Hunkemöller. Good. What was the challenge that Hunkemöller was facing, or was facing? They had a return portal, which they partially used, and partially they had something which we know in the world of logistics as label in the box or return in box, meaning the return label was shipped with the outbound shipment. The existing portal lacked flexibility and convenience. What do we mean by that? Having a return portal is one thing, but if it takes development resources to maintain or make small changes in your return portal, that's not really convenient, because I think we can all agree that development resources within your companies, or even if you go external, are expensive and sometimes also scarce, meaning it will take time before you get those resources. There will be a cost attached to make changes. Not really something you want in e-commerce, where the world is revolving quite quickly. The second point, no in-store return options. Their biggest asset, they were not able to leverage in their return process. 900 stores. If you live in a city, there's a big chance that the Hunkemöller is not far away from you. And they were not able to have their customers bring a product back because they live nearby a store, or perhaps that they go shopping once a week and they are in the shopping street passing Hunkemöller. Then marketplaces and the return policies. I think many of you will have experience with marketplaces, and we know that marketplaces have rules which are there to prevent or have a good quality for people buying on those marketplaces. What does it mean for retailers? These retailers have to adhere to these rules. And guess what? If you break the rules, there's consequences. In the case of certain marketplaces, if you do not process a return within 14 days, meaning the customer has their money back in their account, and you let the marketplace know that, right, by communication measures, often via API, then you'll drop down in their overviews. Even worse, in some cases, if you get penalties too often, they will remove you from their marketplace because you're not a good seller for their customers. This was exactly what Hunkemöller was facing. They were having issues processing their returns in time for marketplaces and were suspended from 1 or 2 marketplaces. That, of course, impacts direct online sales. Not great. Limited shipping choices. So, as we all know, when you buy something, there's more and more the option where you can choose how you would like to get your parcel delivered at home. There's options to have it in a locker, there's home delivery, there's express delivery, sometimes even next day, same day, or 2-day delivery. Why not have options when it comes to returns? And I'm not talking only about in-store returns, but we probably all have a favorite parcel shop that is closest to our home or to our office. And if you only offer a certain provider in your return portal, then that might be the one that's not close to a certain set of customers. Meaning the threshold to get that parcel back becomes a little bit higher. Then, second to last, high return to warehouse cost. The cost for Hunkemöller to get that parcel back was at a significant cost. And that's why they said, hey, if we're looking at other return portals, let's see if we can get that down as well. Then last but not least, visibility in return reasons and volume. If you have a platform where people have to indicate why they return it, but you are not able to retrieve that data or use that data, then it's a waste, right? And in supply chain, we like to plan. We like to know in advance what's coming. If you get those return reasons, then it's not just a box that arrived at your warehouse and you have to find out why is this customer returning it. No, you know up front why the customer is returning it. There's even options to have pictures there so that you can see what condition the product is that gets returned. Meaning you only have to check it in the warehouse once you open the box. This saves quite a bit of time. Good. The solution. What did we do? It sounds very simple, what we did. implement or complete digitization of the returns process. What does that mean? So that means that a label in the box is a no-no. Why is that a no-no? Then you're blind. We don't want to be sailing blind. We want to know why the customer is returning the product. We want to know how they're returning it. We want to know when it's coming back to our warehouse, which enables Hunkemöller in this case two things. They can prepare the warehouse. There's a crew who needs to check the returns. So they know, hey, today there's 50 return parcels. Tomorrow is 100, meaning I might need more staff. They're working with JD. Might be convenient to let JD know this information. The other part of the digitization comes down to having all the information yourself. Getting insights on why customers are returning your product. If a certain product gets returned because it's damaged, you might want to talk to your producer, right? Then, secondly, flexible return options, including in-store and labelless returns. So, options means they have the capability now to offer different logistics service providers when it comes to the returns. Meaning, you as a customer can bring the parcel maybe in Germany to DHL, but also to Hermes, because one of them will probably be closest to you. Aside from that, labelless returns. There's a sustainability part to it, right? Companies want to have an image where they see or seem to be caring about the environment. Not sending out a label anymore, which in 50% of the cases is thrown out, is a waste of trees. So having labelless returns makes you sustainable. Then, very important, a seamless integration with JD.com. The guys who are actually handling the parcels. These guys are the ones that need to receive the information that is obtained in that return portal. Not only the e-commerce manager at Hunkemöller, who needs the information to make decisions on his products and his policies, etc., but the people who manage the warehouse. So that's why it's crucial that we connect it directly to the WMS system of JD, meaning the information also flows directly to them and they can use this to plan shifts and operations around returns. User-friendly portal, UI, UX. I think we've all seen web shops or portals where we think, hey, this looks a bit outdated. It looks not so fresh. I mean, most of us have an iPhone and an Android where millions of euros in research and UI development is it. We're having the greatest UI every day in our hand multiple times. Why should a return solution not have a nice UI and UX? Why should it not be easy to use? So partial thing is getting the steps down to get to create a return, right? You can see in the picture, it asks for an email address and an order number. You don't need to have that because we also send you an email, your order has been delivered. Through that email, you can click and directly go to the return portal, meaning I don't have to go look in invoices for order numbers. I don't have to remember which email address I used to buy the product. It makes it easy for me. It's not confusing. And then, of course, languages. As I said, 19 countries, 12 plus languages. It's convenient to be able to create a return in your own language. And there's the part of scalability, right? Hunkemöller has ambitions to grow. If you want to grow, language is an important part to make your customer feel at home when they are buying and returning something from you. And then last but not least, of course, the real-time dashboard for tracking. Meaning, Hunkemöller has now insights the moment one of their customers created a return. The minute I created a return because I bought the wrong size, Hunkemöller knew about it. They're not looking at this every minute, but they're looking at this on a daily basis. That data gets stored, of course, and we all have, or we know probably clever people, data scientists. You can see trends, you can learn from this. That's important. Good. So that's the solution. That's what we implemented. And now, of course, what did it bring Hunkemöller, right? They paid us some money, and of course, you want to see results. Well, what's the results? Up top, most interesting, 15% increase of return into store. Why is this so important? This is so important because they have 900 stores. They want people to come to their stores, but there's also e-commerce, convenience. People like to buy online. But if you can get somebody to return their product back into your store, there's a very high likelihood that they'll buy something. Either it goes two ways. They return the product, they receive the money back. They spend that money on something else in your store right away, meaning, yes, there was some logistical cost, but you kept your customer and your sale. The other way around, they might come back to the store and they might exchange the size or the color because that was something they mismatched. And aside from that, they're in your store. They will be drawn to look at other things and buy something. This is generating extra revenue, and that's of course always a good thing. Then the enhanced warehouse efficiency with return tracking and forecasting. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers, but the time it takes JD.com to process a return from Hunkemöller in terms of minutes went down. Meaning you can do with less people in the warehouse the same amount or more returns, or the cost spent on checking and processing a return went down. And that's a calculation towards how much FTE and how much am I paying that FTE in the warehouse. Improves customer satisfaction via seamless omnichannel experience. Hunkemöller was able to blend an online experience with an offline experience. Bring back your product into my store. Their greatest assets. They have 900 of them. That's where they spend a lot of money in marketing. How does it look? Being able to combine that is very valuable to them. Contribution to sustainability with paperless returns. I already explained briefly before, meaning instead of printing that label, the customer only generates that label when they actually need it, meaning we're not wasting any trees. Good. Last but not least, easy scalability. If you have a return portal that works well, it's very simple to deploy it in a different country. The only thing you need is a little bit of configuration, select the right language, and decide which logistics service provider you want to be available in that platform. And you're good to go. So instead of something that might have taken months, you can bring a country live for returns in a day. Then, lessons learned. So, what did we learn from this whole experience with Hunkemöller? The key takeaway here must be returns are central to the customer experience. It's part of how they feel when they bought something with you and that went slightly wrong because they made the wrong choice or the quality of the product is not as they expected. It's not an afterthought. It's part of the sale. Flexibility and ease in returns improve convenience and revenue. We've seen by including stores, offline stores, into an online experience, Hunkemöller is able to get more people to their stores, and those people will spend more money. Increase in revenue. Convenience. I might live next to or in the neighborhood of a store. It's about making returning something as easy as possible for your customer. Real-time insights boost operational planning and efficiency. So as a supply chain guy speaking, it's great to know what's coming, when it's coming, and who is bringing it. You can adjust your warehouse operations, but on the other side, on the customer service side of things, if you know why a customer is returning something, and you see that they're returning because it's broken, you might choose to reach out to this customer and ask them or apologize, say, hey, sorry that you got a faulty product. Here is a 20% discount voucher for your repurchase or your next purchase. Meaning you can create touch points around a negative experience, turning that negative experience into a great experience because they felt heard, they felt compensated. They stick with you because you do what you promise. And integrating sustainability in returns enhances brand image. Sustainability is a big part, and nowadays there's consumers who are conscious about shipping and that being sustainable. Having labelless returns there fulfills that part on the return side of things. Small QR code for you guys to learn a little bit more about nShift returns. And then we're closing off slowly. And normally I do this presentation with somebody from Hunkemöller. They unfortunately could not be here today, but he left us with a very nice quote. What was historical a pain point for the company and our customers has been changed in something that adds real value. And that is not me, that's Hunkemöller. So, to wrap it all up, you see where my story comes from, buying a Valentine's gift and knowing I could easily return it made me buy it. It made me a happy customer of Hunkemöller. I will go back to Hunkemöller for next Valentine's Day. Or who knows, Christmas, maybe a little bit sooner. So, that's how Hunkemöller went from pain to gain. And that's how you can win a sale and keep your customer by having a good return solution. So, we still have some time left, so please, if there's questions, I'm happy to take them.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I joined a bit late, so excuse me if this has been covered in your early minutes of the presentation. But I was wondering, what's the major motivation for customers to return in-store versus returning to a Hermes or a DHL? And where I'm coming from is because if I am a customer and I have a DHL and a Hermes closer to my home, I would rather return that there because it's more convenient for me than going to the store, which is like further away from me.
Yeah. And so it's all about convenience in this case. And some of you, I see, have joined also the workshop we did yesterday, where we talked a little bit about checkout. And that also applies to returns, right? We're all different. And generally, we all are from a certain generation. And we live in a certain country which influences what we prefer or what we like. And that also applies to returns, right? I might like to return to store because I instantly know that my return has been processed and I get my money back. Some other people might not like to go to store because why should I go to store? I just want to ship it back and get my money or a replacement product. So that's why it's very important to have options, meaning customers can choose what they feel most comfortable with, convenience.
Thank you, Luke, for the presentation. I have two questions, if you can answer. The first one, did you recognize any regional or country-specific in the return rate? If yes, why? Because in my experience, for example, in my company, we have highest return rate for the Boris in Switzerland, for example. And the second question, if Hunkemöller creates some special education or in the motivation for the retail store staff to make them recognize these returns as additional traffic, not as additional work in the store?
Good questions. So the first one is about the charge, or?
The 15% you said, if you see any regional difference or the country difference of this rate, or it's just average everywhere?
Yes. So this is a number for multiple markets. And of course, there's countries where adoption or return into store is a little bit higher than other countries. But on average, those numbers don't escape each other very much. Then your second question was around, can you repeat, sorry, again?
Yes, I can. For the store staff, normally this returns is like additional work. How do they motivate store staff to think about additional traffic?
Store staff, the moment they get approached by a customer and say, hey, I would like to return this, they know obviously this customer bought something online and they want to return it. The motivation for the store is actually very simple, right? this customer coming in is a customer coming in, meaning somebody who has a wallet on him or her that can purchase something in my store. So they are trained to ask questions about, hey, why are you returning it? Can we replace your product, or are you looking for something else? So they can immediately turn on the consulting role and help this customer and hopefully drive sale.
Yeah, I have a question with regarding to the paperless returns.
Yeah.
If I understand it correctly, then paperless means that I, as a consumer, have to print out the label at home from my computer? No?
That's exactly the thing you don't have to do. So I think I'm generalizing a little bit here, but I, for example, don't own a printer because everything nowadays is on my smartphone or on my laptop, and I can email it or I can share it via whatever, AirPlay, stuff like that. So the convenient thing about it is, instead of sending the customer a label, they get a QR code. Then they go to the parcel shop, and in the parcel shop, the label is printed.
Okay.
So yes, still a label has to be printed because that's what carriers require, unfortunately still, but a part of the process.
Okay, great. I have a follow-up thing, because the interesting thing is we just did a research among consumers in 5 European countries, and the outcome was what they most appreciate is a return label in the package. So that was interesting. But with regard to the question of the number of returns, other companies have the same. The highest returns are in Germany.
Yeah. So of course, label in the box is convenient, right? Because you simply take out the label, close your box, send it out. But as a retailer, you don't have any touch points with your customer. And a return can be something negative. And you might want to know about that so you can turn that negative feeling into something positive. And that's why you want to have your customer engage with a portal so you can retrieve information from that customer and be informed. And then, but that form only arrives at the warehouse 5 days later, meaning the customer is pissed, closed off. Next time I'll go to Triumph, in case of Hunkemöller. Meaning it's all about acting on information the moment you receive it.
Yeah, hi. So my question is that when is it best to trigger the refund to the customer back as a seller? Is it at the store or at the warehouse?
Yeah, so the policy or the EU legislation, or at least in Germany, states 14 days is the maximum until the customer has to have their money back on their account. For customer experience reasons, if you can transfer the money the moment they create a return, do it. Why? We have a partner. They do something that's called instant refund. They are some sort like a return, let's say an insurance company, but they take some risk from the retailer. But what they do is, the moment somebody creates a return, they transfer the money back to that account. And do you know what happens? What those customers do? They immediately spend that money again. So the sooner the customer has the money back, and they know about it, right? So they know they get it back now, they will spend it again. If you give it back after 12 days, then they notice maybe after 4 weeks, like, okay, Hunkemöller sent me my money back. Meaning they didn't spend it again. So as quick as possible.